Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the Suburban Proletarian. My name is Greg, and I am on vacation. I'm sitting here on the dock. The younger generation has gone away for a couple of hours, so I'm kind of left here by myself, enjoying this lovely evening, surrounded by the marsh. The frogs are starting to get tuned up a little bit in the background. You might hear that, but just a beautiful evening. And I was really hoping, while I was on vacation, to be able to do an unboxing video of a new watch that I've been waiting for several weeks. But of course, it didn't come until the day after I left for vacation. So I have my video equipment here, and I did bring a couple of different watches with me on vacation. And it occurs to me that I have never done the follow-up review of my 1963 Chinese Air Force chronograph watch that I unboxed back around Christmas time. And this does have an actual Seagull ST19 movement in it. It's not a Seagull branded watch. I bought it from, again, AliExpress on their Black Friday sale, and I bought it from the best reviewed seller on AliExpress at the best price I could find. I tried to find a balance of those two factors, and I have to admit I had a little bit of trepidation about buying this watch because I didn't know what I was going to be getting. But so far I've been pretty well pleased with the watch, and I want to give you guys an opportunity to take a little bit closer look at it, see how it's holding up after 6 months of more or less regular wear. It's certainly been in the rotation. I've probably got a couple of weeks worth of use out of it so far. So let's go over to my improvised tabletop and take a little bit closer look at this watch and give you my impressions of it. Alright, so I'm not going to make this super long. I did run out of time on vacation, so obviously we're doing this here on the standard tabletop. I've got about 5 minutes of memory left on this SD card, so that gives me a sort of a deadline to work with. I don't know that there's an awful lot I can say about this watch that hasn't been said elsewhere. It's holding up rather well. The stainless steel case has gotten a few scuffs on the side, but overall it's holding up fairly well. The polish is pretty good. Again, I have worn this watch for, I don't know, maybe a total of a couple of weeks. There's still a little bit of the blue protective paint left on the crown there. When I tried scraping that off initially, you may remember from the unboxing video, the sandblasted part, the paint stuck very tightly to, and the polished parts, the paint came off. And I actually kind of like the blue background for the star on the crown, so I'm just going to leave that on there until it wears off. I went with the acrylic crystal because I wanted that vintage look. I don't think anything has quite that same nice, soft, rich look that properly polished acrylic does. I have not been wearing, this is not the sort of watch you wear for rugged sports or at work, so I haven't been beating it up too much, but I have managed to avoid getting that scratched at all. It hasn't seen any polywatch or plastics yet. I took it off of the Flugo cuff strap that I had it on, and even though the leather on this strap is directly in contact with the back of the watch case, we haven't gotten any scratches, so that's good. The chronograph works very well. I haven't had any problems. None of the buttons have fallen off or the hands have fallen off or anything. There is a bit of stuttering when you first start up the chronograph. You'll notice it takes quite a press to get the second hand moving. And when I stop it for the first time, it kind of walks back a little bit and then it jumps forward. It doesn't seem to do that on successive pushes of the chronograph button. So I don't know what exactly magical stuff is going on back here that makes that just happen on the first push of the chronograph button. One reason that the initial push on the chronograph button is so hard is if you look at the column wheel, which is over here and look at this sort of curvy lever. When you give it the initial push, it's got to cam that whole big arm out of the way, which I think is part of that initial hard push. It doesn't move on subsequent pushes until you reset the second hand, and then you go back to having that hard push. So the ST19 movement's been working perfectly well. It keeps good time. The chronograph times fairly accurately. I don't really know much more I can say about it. I mean, this is a fairly faithful reproduction of a 1963 Chinese government design, which was itself a faithful reproduction of, or at least the movement, and it was a faithful reproduction of the Swiss Venus 175 chronograph movement, which is probably, I think, a 1940s or early 1950s design. This watch is just really, really classic. I don't know if I would pay big money for one of the high-end Seagull-based two-register chronographs that are out there that are based on the Seagull ST19 movement. But I can tell you I'm very well pleased with this watch. So far it's been holding up fairly well. I think I got all the dimensions out of the way in the initial unboxing, but in case I didn't, we've got a lug width of 18. That's fairly standard. We've got a lug-to-lug length of about 46 and a crystal to case back of about 14. So it's actually fairly fat. So I think that's about it. I'm just about out of memory. Let's go wrap this up. So the Seagull 1963 Chinese Air Force chronograph reissue is a really cool watch. It has a really neat 1960s, early 1960s design aesthetic, which actually probably, it was a bit behind the times when it was originally introduced because it's a copy of an older Swiss design. It really is almost a, I would say, 1940s or 1950s style watch. Again, that's why I went with the acrylic crystal. I think that really adds a vintage feel to the watch. And so far it's been dead reliable. It's been reasonably accurate. And I'm very, very happy with this watch. I don't know that I would spend, because the movement in this watch is essentially the same as in the official Seagull watch. I'm not sure I would spend $400+ on the real deal. But I think at $150 or so, which is what I paid for this one from AliExpress on a Black Friday sale about 6 months ago, I don't really see how you can go wrong. I have heard nightmare stories about the chronograph pusher buttons falling off and the stems pulling out and not being able to be reinserted and hands falling off and other things breaking. But I haven't experienced any of that. I mean, this has just been a really solid watch with a very vintage feel to it. I know these are very popular and a lot of people have bought these, but it's still, you know, here in America, it's a fairly unusual watch. You're probably not going to go out and find somebody else wearing this exact same watch at a party or in a restaurant or something like that. So it's kind of interesting, it's kind of fun, and I'm really glad I bought mine. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please consider subscribing. It goes a long way to help keep me here on the tube. If you found it helpful and you'd like to see more like it, click the little bell icon down below. That'll allow YouTube to send you notifications when I post new content to the channel. If you're already a subscriber, like, share, tell your friends. All those things go a long way to help me out. And when I post new content to the channel, I hope to see each of you here then. Later, guys.